everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Carrie Roldan Show and Business BFF podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Roldan, and I'm a wife, a mother, a runner, a best-selling author, a personal growth junkie, and your total business BFF. And I could not be more excited for not just the conversation that I'm going to have today, but just to dwell in the energy of my guest today. So the topic for today's show is Dominatrix Secrets to Magnetic Client Attraction. And you can see I'm beaming already because I'm so excited to talk about this. I met today's guest. Her name is Dana Pharant, and I met her about a month ago at a retreat that I went to. We didn't know anything about each other when we showed up at this retreat. We just knew in our beings that we would meet the exact right people at the retreat. And I absolutely just fell in love with Dana. We had an instant connection, and the conversations that came over the course of the weekend were amazing. But just being in Dana's energy helped me have some major shifts. And so I can't wait to introduce you guys to her and the whole dominatrix aspect of what she does. But I'm going to read you her bio so that I don't distract myself with stories along the way. So Dana Pharant knows all about standing out and being unique. Her personal brand, the Inner Dominatrix, pushes people out of their comfort zone and challenges their preconceived notions and has them stepping into a fierce determination to rock their bold, sexy, fun-filled lives. Dana is a #1 best-selling author of Beyond Fear and 2-time award-winning speaker. Dana's commitment to living life in command of her feminine power and helping others connect with their inner dominatrix has made her a sought-after speaker and coach. And already my total business BFF. So I'm going to bring Dana into the conversation now. Dana, if your face is on the screen, say hello.
Hi, Carrie. I'm delighted to be here. As you said, we just instantly clicked at that retreat, and I knew that we were going to be BFFs, definitely in business and more. So.
Yeah. I know it's funny that this is a side conversation, I suppose, but I don't get to go to very many retreats. But the few that I've been to, what I've found is what I just described in the beginning. It's always magical. It's always exactly the right people. And when you spend a short, intense burst with somebody, you are connected. I feel like forever, you're connected on a different level.
Well, you have a much better chance to really get to know people. You go to a networking event or something like that, and it's all surface. It's how's the weather and, surface conversations. But you spend 3 days really having, personal conversations with people. And suddenly it's all the walls come down and you really get to see, who is this person? Who are they beyond the bio? Right?
Oh my God, what a beautiful segue into what I'm going to ask you next. So 1, yes. 2, I'm marveling at that you just said, who are they beyond the bio? Because I'm going to shoot that question back to you and ask Dana Pharant, who are you beyond the bio?
So, personally, I love that you shared some of the things from your personal life. So I don't tend to talk about it because I really am a workaholic. I love my work. I absolutely am passionate about it. But I am married and to an amazing man who is such a big cheerleader for me. I opted out of children. So I have no children. I'm currently without any fur babies. I really need to change that. And I used to say that, it's my side hobby was to be a wine snob, but I think I'm actually going to have to give up alcohol. So I'm going to have to find a new side hobby.
I love, you could still be a wine snob.
That doesn't drink wine?
Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't drink. But if you know a lot about, that's who I think the wine snobs are, right? The ones who know a lot about it and know what pairs with what. And I don't know any of that. So I love what you said about opted out of children. And I am actually attracting, it's such an interesting perspective for me because I am attracting a lot of guests recently who have opted out of children.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yes, but what I'm finding is a devotion to their work, their purpose, and their clients in a way that, at least from the outside looking in, seems deeply fulfilling. So the fact that you called yourself a workaholic, that to me has kind of a negative connotation.
It
But
does.
go ahead.
We need to do a new word for it, because I think maybe I was I like the vocation word. This is my vocation. I love what I'm doing. I did it for years for free. I was doing coaching all the time with people. And I thought, this is really crazy because I can make some good money at coaching. Why am I not charging for it? So really, it is that switch over. And I agree with you. For me, choosing not to have children partially was a choice that I knew I wanted to do business. And I didn't want to do half-ass at both. I wanted to be full-on focused on one or the other.
Love it. Yes. Well, let me just tell you, for all the other mompreneurs out there, right? We know it's a challenge. And one of the things that I had to discover, being an achiever and an entrepreneur and a mom, was that I had to get my priorities really straight. And for me, that meant it was kind of like this sad realization that the pace of my business was going to be slower than I wanted it to be, or that I thought it was going to be, because I recognized, right, that my family, these little people in my home, are only going to be here for a certain amount of time. But let's talk about you. We've already gone on a tangent. So we just said that the topic for today's show is dominatrix secrets to magnetic client attraction. And I love this. This is like such a juicy title.
Thank you.
Let's talk dominatrix. So you have a podcast called the Inner Dominatrix podcast. Your website is innerdominatrix.com. So how did you get to this brand? What's the story behind the dominatrix?
Absolutely. Oh, this is so fun because back in 2006, I started getting involved in the kink world. So kink or BDSM, think 50 Shades of Grey, for if people don't know what these words are. I'm always shocked when I come across somebody that's like, what's a dominatrix? I'm like, really? Like, you don't know what that is? But so I got involved in that world 2006 to 2012. I was very heavily involved with it, more on a personal level. I did do a bit of pro dom work. So that's, charging money for it. And to clear up a misconception, a professional dominatrix does not have sex with their clients. That's not what that's about. It's about transformation.
I'm already like so many questions. So okay, go.
I know. I'm trying to sum it up quickly so we can move on. But so what happened is that 2012, the universe gave me that nudge. Oh, you need to get out. You need to move on. And I wasn't really listening. And so, of course, when you don't listen to the nudge, you get the 2x4. And what happened is that somebody came into the kink community and started to spread all of these nasty rumors about me. And just everywhere I went, it was just hell every time I showed up somewhere. So I thought, fine, piss on you. I'm going to pack up my whips and go home. And and what it was is that my business needed me to have more energy in it. And when I came back to the business and really took a big look at it with my manager at the time, we were facing a bankruptcy. So we needed to kind of dig in, and eventually we ended up having to actually, do a restructuring with the business. But it was that journey. I know I'm kind of like skipping over a few things, but that journey of the bankruptcy and restructuring and turning it around was where I realized that I needed to have this energy from the dominatrix world into my business. That's what created my business to actually, jump up in sales, jump up in having clients that really appreciated me, who loved me. So as an example, it was a store that I had, a massage supply outlet. And I went to this basis of like, I didn't really have store hours. I like, we used to have all kinds of staff. We had set hours. We had all this, stuff. It was just me when I turned it around. And I'm like, I might be here. So you might want to call before you come. So I'd have people call and they're like, can I bring you something? Do you want a coffee? Do you want some lunch? Like, these are people coming in for my store. And so that's where I realized, you know what, it's this dominatrix energy that really makes the big difference. So that sums it up in a quick nutshell.
Yes. So I love that. And I did get to hear your story over the few days that we were together. So hopefully the nutshell is enough for my guests to understand. So I'm going to recap for you quickly that from 2006 to 2012, you were involved in the world of kink. And I actually don't really know what that is. I imagined it to be something deviant and dirty. But what I learned from you was that it wasn't that at all. And so I think probably in hearing your story, what might be confusing to people listening is the idea of the dominatrix energy and feminine energy, because quite frankly, before I met you and knew you and heard about, you talked about when you did pro dom, which again is not prostitution, but you shared a story about that with me, and it was I had a total light bulb moment, because my perception of dominatrix energy, and I haven't seen or read 50 Shades of Grey, but was that a dominatrix was actually cold and hard and masculine and mean and, leather boots and whips. And what you described to me sounded not at all what I had envisioned. So can you just give us
let me back up that story.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna back it right up, give your listeners a little bit of history. So for my background, I grew up in a cult. And of course, part of that was also experiencing sexual trauma. So when I was intrigued with the whole, kink, the BDSM world, I thought I was broken. I needed to heal, and which ended up being true. But, I got involved because it was something that I was drawn to, and I started out on the submissive side. So I had experiences with some amazing people who took me through a scene. So we call it a scene because it's not sex. It took me through a scene where I was actually able to reenact the abuse that happened. So we were able to recreate kind of a rape scene. And in that, we took it all the way through but changed the outcome. So I was able to take back my power. And in doing that, I healed my body on like an incredible level. For the first time, I was able to relax. I realized that I'd been depressed my whole life, because suddenly I'm like, wow, that gray overcast sky, that's ever pretty. And I'd never had those kinds of thoughts before. So that was just incredible, like to have this, release from my body. And that's what encouraged me to want to go to the other side of the whips. So to actually, take other people on this healing journey, because there's a transformation that happens in that scene where you take them through the pain and gradually ramping up the pain and pushing them beyond where they think their limits are. But you're always within that container of what is good for them. And the end, which what most books and Hollywood and things, what they leave off is that at the end of every scene, there's this amazing piece where you kind of like wrap the person up, cocoon them, tell them how amazing they are, tell them how strong they are, how beautiful they are. And that helps to untangle all of the crap that the scene brought up. And it's one of the most powerful forms of therapy out there. But I realize not everybody wants to go to the dungeon. So
I just love this idea of going to the dungeon, because it's so juxtaposed with who you are, how you show up, like knowing you, spending a weekend with you, and just being enveloped in your energy and this loving, caring, accepting, nurturing, healing person that you are. I just love that. And so it was a total mind switch for me to even, I mean, you can tell, right, by the nature of my questions, I'm not at all familiar with that world because I thought it was the opposite of
Yes.
healing, right?
It's meant to look like that because in a scene, we are basically we're actors. We're acting this out. You know, there are some people who are what we call sadists, and they definitely get off on inflicting pain for the sake of pain. The rest of us, we want to see that, you know, progress where we're taking them on that journey, and it's a high because the person who's the submissive actually drops into the deepest form of trance, this deep space of surrender in which like no time or space exists, and it's incredible. And there's also a topping high for the person who's you know, leading the scene.
Sure.
So it's an incredible spiritual experience, which completely fits my other background of being a master healer. But it's that juxtaposition. So, you know, things on the outside are not what they appear to be.
So I love this. You are a dominatrix and master healer.
Yes.
And how does that translate into the work you currently do?
Okay. So I've taken what I've learned in the dungeon. So from both sides of the whip, I take that and I'm inviting people to step into the energy of the dominatrix. So you don't have to pick up the whips, although I can train you on that too. But you don't have to pick up the whips in order to stand in this powerful presence. And so to give you kind of the highlight of what that means, like I like working with women in business because the inner dominatrix is about having an extremely powerful presence. You are focused on the here and now. You're not worried about what's going on, you know, tomorrow or the grocery list or any of those things. Because when you're in the dungeon, you have to drop into that space. You have to be fully present. And so that's a powerful lesson. The balance of the masculine and feminine energy, kind of circling back to what you'd brought up earlier. But the masculine energy, I mean, it encompasses a lot of things, but just one aspect of it is what I call the masculine get shit done, right? So you're focused, you're there, you're just gonna like plow on. And then the feminine is the intuitive. Where do I need to go? How do I need to get there? And when you blend both of those, you have a very powerful business tool to move you forward. Because you can short circuit what you need to do with the feminine, and then the masculine makes sure that you get it done now. And the dominatrix, although it seems harsh on the outside, has that blend, right? That ability to be strong and firm, but there's also a very strong energy component and being able to be intuitive and know what's going on with the other person. So you need both.
So this is so good. This is all so new to me, so I find it super interesting. This is why I wanted to have you as a guest on my show, is because quite frankly, a lot of my people, they're psychics, they're healers, they're coaches, but they're in that world of just what you said earlier, right? This transformational journey. Mm-hmm. And I just love your take on it. I love your background. I love bringing that idea. You just said it, right? You said in order to be a dominatrix, you bring that dominatrix energy. You have to have a powerful presence. You have to be in the here and now, but you have to balance that masculine sort of get her done energy with the feminine intuitive, like knowing what's right. Well, so far all of that to me is like, yeah, I got to bring that to what I do as a coach. I'm imagining every woman in any area of business is figuring out, especially in the time we're living in right now, is figuring out that trying to be masculine isn't working for her. Right? That, I mean, I think that's where we are as women.
Yeah, it's where women burn out. When we get into business or even corporate world and we do masculine energy, push, we burn out. We will kill our adrenaline. We just, we zaps our energy, and then we've got to, pump it all the time. It's really ineffective for women to work that way.
Totally. And we're wanting to bring more of our feminine energy. And a lot of us, we're getting into that space of learning what that looks like, what it feels like, how to do it. Yeah. So this leads me to the topic, right? This dominatrix secrets to magnetic client attraction. So I've had guests on my show before talk about client attraction, and I just have a feeling like I'm dying to know what's the dominatrix secret? Like, what's the edge? What's the difference? Tell me, what are the dominatrix secrets to magnetic client attraction?
So there's layers to this, and this is what I, of course, take my clients through. And the first layer is to get out of judging you. You need to not be constantly thinking, how am I right? How am I wrong? Am I getting this right? Am I getting this wrong? Do I do that? We've got to clear all that stuff off. Then when we clear all of that, garbage out of the way, basically, next layer is to be dropping into trusting your intuition 100% of the time for everything. So business decisions, personal decisions, what to wear, when to wear it, all like little things and big things. When you trust and follow your intuition, which of course is never wrong, ever, right? When you trust your intuition and you follow it every time, now your ability to, catapult your business, it becomes exponential. We don't have to keep trying things out. We just follow that intuition. This is the power of the feminine, is that we can just shortcut to what we need to be doing. Next level is really dropping into that inner dominatrix. So really being willing to be powerfully present, willing to be seen, and willing to be judged. Okay. So what happens in business in particular is that we are constantly judged. We show up, we're judged. You're wearing this clothes, you're not wearing that clothes, you wear your hair. It's blonde, it's not blonde. It's like you can never get it right, especially as a woman. You can never get it right. And so instead of just being okay with being judged, the high level with the inner dominatrix is to use that as fuel for your body and your business. And this is the big key where I see a lot of people are stopping. They're just saying, well, here's how you get okay with it. Do these breathing exercises, release it, blah, blah, blah. That's great. But what if you actually use that to your advantage? That's the big flip.
Okay, so I'm mid flip, I think. I think you probably watch, those of you who are watching on Facebook Live or YouTube are watching my face be like, huh. Okay, so I'm going to repeat what I just heard because so much of this makes sense, right? But I can clearly see, and being someone who helps people with some of this stuff, I know it is a process. It's not just like you read the checklist and go, okay, stop judging myself. Click, right? Check that off.
I wish it was that easy. Click.
Right? From this point forward, I will not judge myself. That's part of the process, right? Is recognizing we've been judging ourselves our whole lives. Yeah. So I like this. I like that as women, right? We need to know there's a process to stopping judging ourselves, but if we can shine a light on the fact that we don't have to judge ourselves anymore, that we could actually know that we are complete and lovable and whole and amazing exactly as we are. And we were created this way for a reason. And so we can just appreciate who we are. That really helps with the stop judging. Then you said, trust your intuition. Oh my God, I love this so much. This piece, this is what I'm helping people do, right? Trust their intuition 100% of the time. Yes. So once you can stop judging yourself, it becomes a lot easier. Then you stop second guessing. You can hear your intuition in a way that you hadn't before, where you recognize it's never, ever wrong. And I love that you said that because it isn't. And yet we're like, intuition, honey, you're not making sense. And intuition is like, yeah, I know it doesn't. It's because I can see around the corner and you can't. So just trust me on this one. So I absolutely love that. It was 3. And I even got 3. You said, be powerfully present and willing to be judged. I'm like, okay, that I hear that all the time in entrepreneurial type stuff, right? They sort of say be polarizing. And if you're not, if you aren't making some people angry, then you're not actually affecting anybody, right? Right? Yeah. So I'm hearing this and I'm going, okay, I know that people are judging me. And I've never read this book, but I use the title all the time. Right. But now I'm going to forget the title. Something about the art of not giving a fuck.
Oh, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you. The subtle art of not giving a fuck. So, I'm down with that, right? And like, okay, if I'm being judged, here's the great part of the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you're judging me. So I'm going to go on being me because step one is stop judging myself. So I already know I'm awesome. So I'm with you on all of this until you said use judgment as fuel. Right. And I'm scratching my head on that. So can you help me?
Okay. So I'm going to give you kind of an analogy to help you be willing to do this. So the first thing is that when we have somebody judge us, so, they're saying stuff, they're talking smack about us, what typically happens with a lot of people is that they go into a bit of a spin and they start getting caught up in what's being said, how it's being said, how do I mitigate it, what do I do, blah, blah, blah. And all that does is distracts you from moving forward in your business. So when you don't allow yourself to receive a judgment and you put up those walls and you go into the spin, you end up losing money. So we're going to say, for example, you lose $10,000.
Ouch.
Okay. Because potentially, right? Depending on, we'll just say $10,000 when you don't receive a judgment. But when you do allow it to come in, you just allow that to be fuel. Now you're taking that energy, and in my view, energy is just energy. There's no positive or negative. We just take that energy and it's like, great, rocket fuel, charge you up. And then you're able to make $5,000 more. So the thing is, would you rather lose 10,000 or gain 5,000? And those are arbitrary numbers, but just to give you an example, right? That every time you allow a judgment to set you off in the spin, you're being distracted from your business, you're losing money.
So I think what I'm hearing you saying, right? If you use the word receive, right? Receive a judgment and allow a judgment. So and we're talking client attraction today. So that if I can, instead of deflecting a judgment or even saying, I don't really care, it's out there, but I'm over here. If I can allow myself to, because that's where I've been, like, just let it bounce off you. Who cares, right? Mm-hmm. That's the art of not giving a fuck. I think what I'm hearing you saying is, if I can receive that judgment, and then I love the analogy of fuel, right? Because, we take in food as fuel, but then our body transforms it into something else, right? Like it starts as a banana, but then, or whatever it is that we're eating, but then our body turns it into energy. And so I think that's what I'm hearing. Is that what I'm hearing from you? That judgment can be received the same way?
Yeah. And I want to just put out to the listeners, like, this is high level stuff. This is not, if you aren't at the place where you've cleared off your own judgments, please don't try to do this. This is the advanced piece. This is like, that's why it's a 3-step process. We get, move you in that direction. But ultimately it's that. And it's also, when you get to that place, when you're willing to, use people's judgments to your advantage, then you're also willing to use everything to your advantage. So when somebody comes at you and they're talking smack, you're like, great, let me spin that and make it a good PR piece. Or let me do this, let me do that. You don't get caught up emotionally and you're able to see, how do I use it? How do I spin that? That's the dominatrix piece, right? Because she will use everything to her advantage, right? So it's like, if I was back in the dungeon and I'd be whipping somebody and I happen to hit the wrong spot, like if you hit the kidneys, it's kind of a real tender spot. I don't say, oops, I don't apologize as a dominatrix. I don't apologize. I'm like, that's what you get for mouthing off to me. And if you mouth off again, I'm going to smack you there again, right? I would spin it. I'm always going to spin it, because the minute I say oops in the dungeon, I break the scene. And that ruins it for both parties. So I need to stay there. And the same thing in business. Like, we have to stay in that zone, in that power. Otherwise you lose momentum. So, and it feels better.
So I love what you're saying, but you lost me again
Okay.
a little bit with the kidney thing. No, because my next question is, and this is why I love these conversations, because I already and we know in spending time in your presence and really getting to know who you are, I can see so clearly that you are a brilliant coach, that you're bringing so much of this, what I think that the dominatrix, I always saw the dominatrix as confident and in her power. What I never recognized was that she was also feminine. And so the question that is now coming to me is, if as a dominatrix, I hit someone in the kidneys and then I use that, something about that doesn't feel authentic to me. And yet I know you as being so authentic. So help me with that.
So let me walk you through it a little slower. So, I'm not intentionally hitting the kidneys. That's not my idea. But sometimes, things happen, right? You have those oops moments.
Right.
And in that moment, so if I'm wanting to continue the scene, I don't want to take them out of this pretend space where I'm pretending to have all of the power. They're pretending they've relinquished all of the power. In fact, it's the opposite. They have all the power because they can always call the ultimate stop. But we're pretending that so that we can carry on this fun play.
Well, I'm wondering how it translates to the business, right? To the client attraction.
So I just want to make this close up the loop. So in that moment where I accidentally hit the wrong spot, which is in business, we accidentally do all kinds of stuff, right?
What?
Never happens,
Not me,
right?
I'm perfect.
Accidentally open the wrong Zoom meeting and nobody can get on the call. Never happens, right?
Never happened to me.
So instead of in the scene, instead of saying oops or making myself wrong, I would just spin it a little bit to keep the scene going. Now in business, there are times when you have to go, oh, I fucked up. But you don't make yourself wrong. Even if you admit that you made a mistake. Making a mistake, admitting that does not mean you're wrong. And that's a big thing. See, when things stop being right or wrong, which is another high-level consciousness piece. When things stop being right or wrong, you can just keep moving forward. What if there's nothing wrong with that? Then you can say, okay, well, how do I make this work for me now? All right, I opened up the wrong Zoom meeting. Great. How is this an advantage? How can I make this work for me? How can I turn this around? You stay in that momentum and that train of thought.
And in that, the words that are coming to me are powerful perspective, right? That you're standing in your own power and you have that bigger perspective, right? That higher self perspective, actually, of just like you were saying, when you're in a dominatrix scene, right? Well, in every scene in your business, right, you have the perspective of the desired outcome for both parties, or where, right, when this scene ends and leads to the next. I'm thinking about a client enrollment conversation or something like that. So I think you've answered the question, and we're nearly out.
Because we didn't get around to the client attraction. There's so much to explain.
I know.
It's fun, but once we get it. So the client attraction piece and the dominatrix secret is there's two key things. Okay, so one, as a dominatrix, you are always in high demand. And so when you're approaching your business that way, where you're the commodity that's in high demand, you talk to people differently. You have your conversations from a very different place. It's not needy. It's not, leechy kind of thing happening. And the other piece, which, here's where I'll just leave people with a little nugget, is the sexual energy. And that's where they need to sign up for the freebie, because that gives them the video tools that we don't have time to go into on here. So.
Oh, well, I was wondering how we were gonna close that loop. Okay, so I will definitely put a link in the show notes, but do you have a link you can verbalize right now, or it's fine if you don't? I just put Dana. If you're watching, you just saw Dana's face go, oh crap, I don't remember.
I didn't pull that up. No, it is on my website under the freebies, so you can go to the website and just go to the freebies. That's the easiest.
So I will put the link in the show notes, but also for those of you who are just going to remember, you cannot forget Inner Dominatrix, because what Dana just said, this is my takeaway. You said a dominatrix is always in high demand, right? And all of us know that if we could actually embody that energy in our business, right? If we could, even if we only have one client or we don't even have any clients yet, to understand that you are already in high demand, right? To be in that energy of what I have to offer, the service that I provide or the product that I like, it is high demand. I am high demand, and stand in the energy of that. Clients show up, right? Sales happen.
Yes.
But so many of us are like, how do I get there? But how? But how? But how? Well, Dana is our how. So go to innerdominatrix.com and sign up for her freebie. I'll just give you this little teaser about the sexual energy part. This was my introduction to Dana. So I came to this retreat. Everyone else had been there. I had to fly in from further away. And so everyone else had been there the evening before and had dinner together. And I missed dinner. I got in super late the night before. So it's like the very first thing we do. I don't know this woman from anyone. I've like shook her hand, and she's sharing this whole sexual energy component and like and you guys, I am a good girl. If you guys know, my friend Cynthia Carrere has been on the show several times, but she actually has a whole program around like healing your inner good girl. And I was like raising my hand high for that good girl stuff. So here I am, this good girl. And Dana's like, yeah, we're going to tap into our sexual energy and it's going to help us like have more abundance. And I'm like, what have I gotten into? And people, it was amazing. It was a healing moment. And it was actually what endeared me so much to Dana and what helped me connect to her on a very deep, non-sexual level.
Yes, sexual energy is not about sex. It can be translated there, but doesn't have to be about sex.
Yeah. So ladies, if you have listened to this podcast and your ideas about the dominatrix have been flipped on their head I don't even know if I said that right, but you get the message. If you are somebody who knows that they need to stand more fully in the whole truth of who they are, right? In the balanced masculine and feminine, you're going to want to check Dana and her stuff out. I'm going to have a link to her app, to her podcast, to Inner Dominatrix podcast. Find it on iTunes. And of course, to her website and like all her freebies. So if you haven't been to the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, it's underneath us. Go there. There's some good stuff for you. So Dana, any closing words, anything you wish you would have said that you're hoping people get?
I just have a little coined phrase that I use, I think feels appropriate, is that when you're willing to lose everything, you can have anything.
Oh, can you say that again?
When you're willing to lose everything, you can have anything.
I love it. I think the people can actually hear me writing that down.
Yeah.
So when you're willing to lose everything, you can have anything. Mm-hmm. Perfect closing phrase. Thank you so much for being who you are and for being on the show today. We are so business BFFs, and I know that you're the next step for quite a few of my listeners. So I'm just so excited for those people who, Dana is right. Like, reach out, connect with her, because good stuff is in store for you. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching and listening. And we will see you on the next episode of the Carrie Roldan Show / Business BFF podcast. See you next time.